Oh. Suka ndihambe zala nkomo sodla isigqorho madoda. Qaqhina kaqhonono. Ewe mna ndikucanzi, ndingusanzanze sanzonza kwegqi umntu. Ewe ndingusandlala nca. Ndingugiqa amatye, ndikurhwala emgodleni, ndikuthewuka ngobulembe entabeni ndisisincola ngamhluza amanzi ekhona, ndikupheka iqhakuba upheka iphemphemi ngengxawana. Tsi! Ewe kaloku mna ndizalo manzothweni konyelenzi komaphango ongxalo ongxake ngxanxa sinoxoxo xhamo welo bephambi impunzi kaseva mtyana ethunga kwekwasemanzothweni. Hoyini bafazi bentsikizi le ntsholo nayiphazama nithabatha isidoda ngoma lihlatyelwe isifazi ngutsiba nkulu kayuthu ngutaba kahili. Ngusiqa somile somelelwa zintshaba ngunabelo emntwini ngumagatyana nguhebebe. Sihlobo sikakhawuta sihlobo sikagcaleka. Uzukulwana kaloku mna mpethleni kocabasho nkomo zibomvu. Into zakulolu bisi komo zikayibeka zikakani, komo zikambiko zikamancamu zikamlawo. Ndiyacamagusha ke xa nsithi mhlane ntlanga nqabane ngqungqushe ziqeleka zihlamba ngobende amanzi ekhona. Ndinqabe chosi kubele ke xa ndithi mgiqwa vaba tshinga kwakhwazikhwaza ngabayaziyo madoda ndithi qhe ndithi nkosana ndithi wohla. Ndinqabe chosi kubele ke xa ndibiza utshawe umdange utshiwo utogu ungconde. Ndithi sigodlwana zamazendala zingalala endleleni yazini madoda ukuthi kunyembelekile. Phuma phaa kwangqika kaloku mna phaa kwarharhabe kwatsinga kanomagwayi wasembo. Kwasibala mdaka sambatha simfutshane kanti zomlungana kube eziluthi zimfihla amadolo. Utsinga kanomagwayi wasembo singesiyaya mhla singasiyi mhla sisiya. Ndithi ke ndiyacamagusha kookhokho bamamagcina oxhamela oncancashe. Omalamba endle omalamba endlini into ezidla izigusha zamadoda zizidulu zethafa. Camagusha okhokho bamamangqosini othithiba onozinga abantu bomlambo madoda omenyeza ondoko ojwaqula ogababo madoda. Ubamba kodwa emnyama kaThikoloshe iqenqeleke sehlise enyuka phezu komlambo igqili. Phuma Thikoloshe ezingqongoleni siyacamagusha xa sitshoke sinwabe chusibele. Xa sicamnca ngale njikalanga, xa sinqula ngale njikalanga, xa sicangcatha ngale njikalanga. Asingabizanga ngaqumba ngaqalekisa madoda okutshona kwelanga namhlanje. Kusandile ke lona umeliqiniso umveliso ulivumile into kakhungu kasigova kagoqoza sikuzuku sikathukani phantsi madoda emamfeneni kohlatho elikhulu elingothiwa sele livutha lwathiwa zimfene kuba imfene zibaninilo. Koluncu komwandla komando wafike luhlangeni. Tsi! Zakhali izikhali zaharhabe. Greetings to everyone. Welcome to my world. My brother, Mufukeng, how are you, Muren? How are things going on your side?
Raleboa wesu.
Muren.
Kyaleboa wesu. Greetings to everyone. Thank you for having me, Tikasap. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Hi. Noise. Fihle handle haeso. Eso. Fihle handle.
No, I'm happy to have you, my brother. We're starting now with our session. Today is the 4th consecutive day where we are having this session. Talking about these things, I think it's time we go deep now into the nitty-gritties, the nitty-gritties of these subjects that we've been discussing on our people. Who are our people according to them, not according to what another person wants to believe. No, according to them. Who are they? And the people are made up of everything that they are. It's not just one thing or the other. It's everything that they are. That's what they're made up of. You see, in the early hours of the morning when the sun rises, my brother, the morning sun, when it rises, today we're going to start with that subject. Because the sun looks red as it rises in the early morning. And our people didn't just look at that and think, it's a red sun. Okay, let's go to work. No, they thought something about that. They thought something about the red sun of the morning, and that something is going to explain a lot of things. I will questions later, everyone. Don't worry. For now, we need to get to the topic. You see, in the early hours of the morning, you will see the sun rise looking a bit red. You will see the sun rise looking a bit red. I just want to show this properly. Now, we call this by various names. It's called umso obomvu, the red dawn. Umso obomvu. Remember now, when we say tomorrow, we say kamuso or ngomso or kamisho, or when we talk about the morning, we say macheroni. Macheroni, that is to say, in the morning, we say misho, abusheni, and all those kind of words in reference to the dawn, kusa, ukusa, the dawn. Ukusa really means when the day is breaking forth, when the day is penetrating. But it looks red in the early hours, right? And this comes from an old story. And I want to start there today. You see, we talk about Tiko. Tiko. But very few times do people wonder. Very few times do people wonder where this Tiko thing is coming from. Tiko, amongst other things, is a extended reality of the day when the sun breaks in the east is a sign of victory, defeating the night sky. You see, many cultures fear the night. Many cultures revere the night. They see the night as a time where you have to hide. It's not safe. It is a time of fear for many cultures all around the world. And therefore, many belief systems developed out of this to say the night represents death and the day represents life. And therefore, when the sun rises in the morning, it is a renewed hope. And when the sun sets, it is the daily struggle between life and death, between good and evil. And this is why now in the story of Tik, as much as we know that story has many epithets and characteristics to it, and I've told this story many times to say, Tiko was an ancient king. Tiko is another name for the creator being. Tiko is an ancient primordial one, the first one, but also the sun itself in its daily journey across the sky. And then into, now according to the old cultures, into the dark, the unknown dark, because the old cultures saw the sun as rising and sinking, and they thought the sun is going to the underworld. And therefore, the good, the truth of the world, the force of good was seen as being represented by sunlight as it happens during the day. And the force of evil was seen as represented by the night. And therefore, the king of the day would be the sun, the god of light. And the king of the night would be the evil one, the god of blackness. That is why then Tikwab would be the personification of good, and Kaunab would be the personification of evil, to such a point that the practitioners, the spiritual shamans, the Gaiyaub means those who practice, the forbidden arts, the magic. But it also means the good men Abahlekazi. Now, you know the word gqi means good. So, gqi help is abahlekazi. Abahlekazi would say they see Gaunab, the Lord of the Night, and he is black in skin. It's not black because of melanin in the sense that a human skin is. He's black because he's a personified version of the night. Just like Hap in ancient Kemet was blue because he was the personified water, particularly the flood. The one of the earth will be brown because he will be the personified earth. The one of the night sky, Nut. Code save. I'm just gonna quickly block you, my good sir. Yeah, let me just block you so that you don't have to be, angry at me for no reason. I didn't say your father must abandon you. I'm sorry that he did that. He didn't deserve it, shame. So then the entity that represents the night would be represented physically with what mimics the night. The entity that represents the day would be represented with that mimics the day. That you see that in many cultures, the entity that is taken as a personification of thunder, even the name would be thunder. That's why today you have Monday, the day of the moon, Tuesday, day of Tu, Wednesday, day of Odin, Thursday, day of Thor, which is thunder, Friday, day of Freya, Saturday, day of Saturn, Sunday, day of the sun. Now, even here in the south, it's the same. Tiko, the rising sun of the morning, the red sun, Tweekwap, the red rising sun of the morning. Why red? The ancient ones would say, representing the bloody battle of the night. The bloody battle of the night between good and evil, and good has won. Once again, every morning, rising up victorious against the evil night, the Gaunab. The Gaunab. So, the story of Tiko goes that deep to say, he dwells amongst the clouds. He sits in the clouds. The Son of Righteousness, as you would know, even in the Bible, the Son of Righteousness, the physical Son, would be seen as some representation of the force of good. So Tiko is a representation of the force of good, the power of goodness, that good will triumph over evil. That good will triumph over evil, ultimately. And I want to make it very clear, these were personifications, first and foremost, and then adapted names for ancient kings. That is the name Twikwab, the rising sun, Ilanga, and the night, Kaunab. Kaunab. Now, I'm looking at this history and I'm thinking, some of the paintings on the walls, people misinterpret them. They think it's either this or that, but the wisdom is already in these ancient stories. We need to see physical representations of these things. We need to see physical representations of these things. We need to see Gaunab being physically represented. We need to see Tiklo being physically represented, to have something that registers in your mind. Most people, when they pray, they see Cesare Borgias, the Roman general, the Roman general with long hair, blonde eyes, blah, 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 blah. With that, well-known white supremacist image, blonde hair, blue eyes, the perfect Aryan phenotype. That's because you don't care about your own things. You don't care about your stuff. People want to come here and tell us that indigenous knowledge was inferior. No, it's your mind that is inferior. It's not indigenous knowledge. Trust me, because indigenous knowledge is the first, it's the blueprint of Greek philosophy. It is the blueprint of Greek systems. It's your mind that lags behind. I can give you the best knowledge. I can give you the best science. I can give you the best tools. If your mind is broken, there's nothing that can be fixed with that. Nothing at all. Okay? So it's not the indigenous knowledge that's the problem. It's you, the person who was given that knowledge for free. and you don't know what to do with it. This is the red dawn, the rising sun of the morning. I want to start by looking at the myths of origin of our people, my people, today. I want to start by looking at the stories of origin that our ancestors told us. And maybe let me add another layer to Tito. Because in that battle of the night between Tito, the good one, and Kaunab, the evil one. Thank you guys for the gift. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Tito fights a bloody battle, which is represented by the red sky, with the evil lord of the night, Kaunab. Tito defeats Kaunab, but Kaunab, in his anger, strikes Tito's knee and renders Tito as a limping one. Someone could even say the one who walks on one leg. And we will see how this is relevant to the other histories of other communities in South Africa. You find a lot of these stories amongst the Nama peoples and other Khoi groups. But let's see how some groups like the Swati, remember these stories. Let's see. I think I took some notes here that we can read. Quickly. Let's see what the Swati people thought. The detached supreme being of the Swazi was Mkhulu Mngande, who created the earth and everything that lives and grows there. This was recorded by Mowick in 1940. His footprints, this is very important, the footprint, very, very important, can be seen in certain rocks. Again, super important, because rocks is where those are our original books. Our original indigenous books were rocks. In fact, a lot of the words we use, meaning to write, have to do with digging into rocks. So the footprints are found on rocks which were not quite solid when he walked on these rocks. Mkhulu Mngande, after placing people on the earth, instructed them in the things that they were permitted to do and those which were forbidden, basically law. Mkhulu Mngande was credited with fabulous marvels, which even the ancestral spirits emadloti were unable to achieve. Mkhulu Mngande sent his disciple or messenger Mkhulu Mngande sent his messenger Mlende ngamunye, meaning the one leg at a time, the limping one. Remember, we just discussed Tiko and his bitter battle with Kaunab and how he was wounded on one side of the leg. The Swati tell us about the messenger of Tiko, the messenger of Mkhulu Mngande, called Mlende ngamunye, he who walks on one leg at a time. Down to earth at periodic intervals. Now, this heavenly representative occasionally arrived in a cloud of mist. Nkungu, Musi, Mhlanga. Cloud of mist. The people were very frightened of Mlende ngamunye, who remained for about a month. Various rituals were performed by the Swazi to appease Mlende ngamunye, one of which involved the burning of fowls or goats on a type of funeral pyre. The smoke ascended to heaven and thus to Mlende ngamunye. Again, in 1940, Warwick observed that the concept of Mkhulu Mngande as the supreme being has, in more recent times, become confused with that of the Christian God, which happens all the time due to the influence of the missionaries. So a lot of these original indigenous folklores and beliefs and history became sort of like merged with the Christian missionary teachings. That's why then you'll find Tiko today in the Christian Bible, where originally it was a completely, independent story. Completely independent story. So Mlendengamunye then becomes basically a form of uThixo that talks to people. Like the sun comes daily to hover over people. Okay? So what you have here is the first alignment between the Swati and the Nama to talk about Mlendengamunye, the one who limps on one leg at a time, which is basically another version of Tiqwab, he who has a limping leg because of a wounded knee. Yeah, according to the Swati, he was an intermediary. So Umlendengamunye or Tiqwab occupies a space of he's a superior being, but he's not entirely like detached from human beings. For example, Tiqwab has also been a chief before. So he's not only this superior being, but he was also a chief at some point. He has lived with people at some point. Yeah, well, and again, this is the very nature of indigenous storytelling. Like, these beings change their forms. They change their forms. All right. So that's the first instance we're hearing here. But I want you to note one thing, that here it says his footprints can be seen in what? In certain rocks. In certain rocks. So he was amongst rocks. Ne? We're going to go and find other accounts of the early creation myths. Let's see, maybe from other groups. In 1982, Hodgson, drawing on older sources, mentions further versions of the origin of the Khoikhoi, basically. It was said that by some Khoi resident on the west coast that their cattle came out of a hole. This is exactly what the Xhosa said as well. In a flat rock. And that the spoor, the tracks, the footprints of the cattle could be seen on the stone. Exactly what the Swati just told us, that even the footprints, the footprints of Mlendengamunye can still be seen on the rocks. Another account is that the first man and the first woman came forth from a hole, from the window of the sky, or alternatively, the first people descended from the sky in a large basket. Isilulu. You see the story of Isilulu, sehlenge Isilulu, slandele izintethe. Even the Nama say it, even the Kwe people say, behlenge Isilulu. It's not just in KZN. Just like when the Swati say we came out of a hole in Metsieng, even the Kwe say it, that we came out of a hole. Let's see. A creation belief by some Ora, particularly the Karema case. The Karema case was that at first, okay, let's actually start here. The country was populated from this. The Korah employed the sun to kill game. Now here's the important part. One day the sun went to a large cave where the Korah kept his calves. There were no cattle enclosures in those days. Now this explains something where our people say the cattle were in stones, they were in caves in the past. That is to say, there must have been a time in the past where our people did not build what? They did not build cattle enclosures with wood, as we see, but rather with stone. And we see all the stone ruins. But let's take it another step. Here it says the Naro and the Owen or Owen at Sandfontein had belief in Hishe. You know the Karanga groups, ne? They talk of Ishe, Tenzi, Muari. They'll talk of Ishe, Tenzi, and Wari. This is the Naro and the Auken. They believe in Hishe or Hiesha. This is the one that Amaxhosa will invoke every time they are in disbelief. But Heshe, Heshe. And sometimes they will say it as Heke, Heke, in celebration of something that has happened. Heke, it's the same thing. Heshe, Heke, it's a form of Hishe. Now, obviously, naturally, these things will, in our cultures, they will manifest. You will find that Xhosa will have 5 different occurrences. They will have Tiko, they will have Kamata, they will have Hishe, they will have Hebebe, they will have Hegebe. All these are different deities or sort of like ancient beings. But because we are a multi-ethnic people, the way that our societies are built, it's many different groups in one culture. We will have many of these things appearing. So you'll have Mwari, you'll have Ishe, you'll have Tenzi, you have Musikibatu, you'll have Ralubimbi, all in one culture. You'll have Umdali, you'll have Umvelinqangi, Umlente ngamunye, Mlenze munye, Thixo, Qamata, Qang, Ikwane, etc. It's natural for that to happen. But the Naro used to call out to Yishe. Yishe kumburera. Yishe kumburera. Africa. Kosi sigelele Africa. They say that in Shona. They say Ishe. You can see it here. Ishe. A supernatural being who lived in a house in the east and who appeared in a number of guises. These are narrow people, so-called Bushmen. They are talking about the east. The east. There's a question. Our God as Xhosa people is Kamata, not Tiko. I just answered that, Mos. I said we are multi-ethnic cultural groups. We are not one homogeneous people. Xhosa people, there's 15 to 20 different ethnicities that constitute the Xhosa identity. There's Sukwini people, there's Sitatu, there's Ngahwane, there's Mfene, there's Mvulane, there's Tamsholo, Bayi, there's Mvundle people. There's Maduna people, there's Bango people, there's Chawe, Jwacha, and Tsicha peoples, there's Xhosa people. All those people have their own systems or own linguistic dialects. They come together. But we don't have God. God is a European thing. Tiko is Tiko. It's not God. We are reducing Tiko now. When you say Tiko is God, you are reducing that. God is a sky deity of Europe. In fact, the word God also has to do with Deus or Dios, the day. Anyway, he lived in a house in the east. Please take note of this. And who appeared in a number of guises at the puberty ceremonies of boys. You see? So when boys were going through their puberty ceremonies, Yishe would come. Yishe was regarded as the protector of game and hunting. He instituted marriage and the way of life of the Qwi. Okay, that's fine. That gets my point. Let's see other ones. Let's see what the Xhosa are saying. The Xhosa was a tall, muscular, and dark-colored. Kamata sent the chameleon. Who? Kamata sent the chameleon to do what? To earth to tell people that they would never die. So Xhosa people already had an idea about eternity. They had a concept of eternity. It's not a foreign concept that was brought over. All right. I'm not going to read all of this. There's a point I'm trying to get here. Let's see if it's here on this or it's not. There's something important here. The people did not believe the chameleon, believing in instead the word of the lizard. That is why people die. Okay. Now there's this point. Lightning was conceived as a bird. That is what I was saying recently when I was talking about fire and Prometheus. Impundulu or Indagezulu, the bird of heaven. Do you understand? Thunder was the beating of its colors, its wings. Impundulu was said to be dazzling in the brilliance of its different colors. It set its fat on fire and sent it down as lightning. Where this struck, it left its eggs. These resembled hags' eggs and were thought to bring bad luck to the neighborhood where they were laid. Another belief was that Impundulu was the servant of death of the supreme being and was greatly feared as a messenger of death. So it was an angel of death, Impundulu. That's what it was, an angel of death. Where the lightning struck, there's something you would have there. This is what we call fulgurites. Let's see what fulgurites are that people believe were the eggs of the angel of death. Fulgurites were these things. You see these things? These are called fulgurites. These things, they come after lightning. They come after lightning, and people would take these things and make concoctions to prevent lightning from coming again. All right? But the most important thing is that clearly this was a properly organized system of beliefs in the past. Because it is aligned, whether you listen to the Batswana, whether you listen to the Bapedi, whether you listen to the Basotho, whether you listen to Amaxhosa, whether you listen to the Swati, they all say aligning beliefs. Whether they say they came from up with the basket and came down, as the Zulu say, the Nama also say it. That we came down with the basket. Whether people say they came out of holes in the ground, the Kham people say that, the Nama people say exactly that they came out of holes. Let's read what the Bahurute say. The first human beings and animals, according to Bahurute, came out of Lowe, near Muchudi in Botswana. Not in Congo, according to Bahurute, not in Cameroon, not in Israel, not in Sumeria, not in Babylon. The Bahurute say the first human beings and animals came out of Lowe near Muchudi. By the way, when I say if you want to know the person who was saying this, I can get you their name. We've got names of the informers. I can get you their names. I can get you who they spoke to. It's not something I'm making up. These are proper sources. They didn't say we came from Persia. They didn't say we came from Cameroon. They didn't say we came from Babylon. They didn't say we came from Congo, nor Zambia. They said we came from Lowe. The very first ancestors of Botswana were in Botswana. Which means they're telling you we are here, we've been here. Emerging from a hole 9 to 12 feet deep in a rock, in a dry riverbed. Do you understand? They came from a hole, exactly as the Kham people say that they came from a hole, exactly as the Xhosa people say that even the cows, they say they all came from the hole. In the east, some say, others say, in the vicinity of northwest. On the rock surrounding the hole can be found engravings of footprints of men and wild animals. Footprints again. Thank you guys for the gifts. Footprints again. Just like the Swati told us about Mkulumngand and Mlentengamunye, whose footprints are to be found in rocks. Just like the Nama also said the same thing about footprints that are to be found in rocks. Just like the Kora also said the same things about footprints that are to be found in rocks. The Tswana, particularly Bahurutse, was telling us the same thing, that the footprints are still there. Not in Angola, not in Cameroon, not in Israel. You can come with Iwan Biwane all you want, but the voices of the people will not be shut down. These footprints are the footprints of the first creatures. Who are these first creatures? This is the race. This is the race of Mlentengamunye. This is the race of Amagongongqo, as we call them. This is the early beings who were predecessors to our proto-ancestors. The Kam called them Kwenga Soke. The Kwenga Soke. They went extinct. Footprints of the first creatures. One of them pointing toward the hole is the footprint of who? Of Matsieng. What is Matsieng? What about Matsieng? Matsieng is the one-legged creator who retired into the hole when he was disappointed with his creatures. He retired into the hole. Even Matsieng comes from the same hole as us. So Matsieng is us, is our very first ancestor. The ancestors were correct in saying Unkulunkulu is the original ancestor. It makes sense. Matsieng, the one-legged one. Mlentengamunye, one with the one leg, or the one who walks one leg first. You know, according to Xhosa oral history, the Amagongqongqo are also one-legged. The Amagongqongqo who were chasing with Dulube. Dulube is actually Tiqwab. They're also one-legged. Now, the way I look at it, and when I interpret and collect all the data, it seems to me that perhaps this early form of humanity had strange features. Some had one leg. There was a group that were one-legged. Others had 3 legs. It's just that these are old stories, you know. Over time, people mix up things. But I see it's a constant theme, the one-legged thing. It's very constant. I can see it amongst different groups that it keeps on popping up. In some versions of the creation myth, Lowe was the first creator. They use the word God, and Matsieng, his servant. This is consistent with the Swati version now. This is consistent with the Swati version that Lowe would be Mkulumngande or Mkulumngande, and Matsieng is the one-legged one, which is Mlentengamunye, the servant of Lowe. Matsieng is the servant of Lowe. Mlentengamunye is the servant of Mkulumngande. True, Tintibane, Ngwana wa Mafachi. True. He was the ruler of the whole in some versions. Absolutely. And Ndabez that says we call Amagongqongqo Amagunugunu. You see, Matsieng was ordered to open the hole and make the first creatures. Later, Lowe imprisoned Matsieng in the hole and became the first Tswana chief. So Lowe was actually a trickster, more like Tsagen as well. He was a trickster because he tricked Matsieng to make the people and then take Matsieng and imprison him. Then Lowe becomes the chief. That's why Batswana love Lowe so much to this day. They were tricked by Lowe. But again, these are not supposed to be literal always. They are just meant to communicate a specific theme. A specific theme to say those who are in charge sometimes are there by injustice. Sometimes they are there in justice. They are there by injustice. In fact, the whole is an entrance to a whole civilizations. So the whole that they're talking about is just an entrance, it's a portal. It's an aperture to a whole civilization, a cavern. You get what I'm saying? It's like some form of, I don't want to get too, because people are going to go crazy. But it's like a portal of some sort. In another version of the myth, Matsieng was God and Tobeha was the servant and one-legged creator. I know this one. Tobeha Pachwa as well. I know the one of Tobeha Pachwa. And he was one-legged. Matsieng left another footprint in another place on a rock near the hill. These are real places that you can go to and find these things. It's not some vague theory that Europeans came with about Bantu migration that we must believe. No, these are actual places with real evidence that these stories are based on. The first human being to come out of the hole, this is now very interesting to me, was a girl, Matuomyane. That was the first human being to come out of the hole, a girl who had two brothers, both named Matuome, and who were also created there. I used to have a landlord, Matome. He had this name, Matome. He was my landlord, you know. So yeah, and who were also created there. This girl had orders regarding what? Regarding the cattle. She was appointed to herd them, but her brother Matuome came out and without permission, he led the cattle around the end of a mountain. This so enraged his sister, who possessed medicine for the preservation of life and health, that she returned to the hole, carrying with her precious medicine. Because of this, diseases and death, blah, blah. This is a way to explain death, basically. But for me, I'm more interested in the bigger theme. The theme is holes, caverns, caves, rocks, and humanity living there. What this is telling you is that in the earliest memory of humanity amongst the indigenous groups in South Africa, they understand as coming from caves and rocks. Even if it's not literal, it's clear that there is a historical basis because of the consistency. Whether it's Tram, whether it's Nama, whether it's Kora, whether it's Zulu, whether it's Xhosa, whether it's Nama, whether it's Swati, whether it's Sotho or Tswana peoples, I've calculated 9 different ethnic groups telling the same story. And these are spread between 5 different countries. But they all tell the same story, that they were in caves, they were in stones, they originated there. They even remember times where there were no wooden kraals or enclosures for cattle, but cattle were also kept in caves. So this must be some really primordial history then, going back to the Stone Age, to say we remember the times where we were stone people. And this is the importance of not dismissing indigenous accounts of history. We can't dismiss indigenous accounts of history. Let's see what the Tram are saying. The Tram, in a different version of the episodic separation of man and the animals, was provided by Stowe in 1905, more than 100 years ago, in respect of the Tram living in the lower Kharib, which is in Karib, Orange River. It is said that in the remote forefathers No. It is said that the remote forefathers of these Cham came out of a hole in the ground at the roots of an enormous tree which covered a large part of the country. All kinds of animals immediately thereafter came swarming out in great numbers. These animals crashed, blah, 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 blah. But again, it's the same theme, coming out of a hole. Now, this hole, sometimes it's got water and therefore reeds. And the people, when they were made, a reed was broken off. And therefore, and therefore, baluhlanga. Sometimes they come off a dry riverbed. Sometimes they come out of a hole which has a tree in it. But the key theme amongst all these indigenous groups of South Africa, the Kham people, the Kora, the Nama, the Zulu, the Swati, the Xhosa, the Sotho, the Tswana, all the way, they talk of coming from holes. They mention rocks. They refer to footprints. And to me, I cannot take that as something that's made up. I cannot take that as a confusion when I can see clearly that it's consistent. It's consistent. They don't talk about traveling from another country, these people, when they talk about their origins. They don't talk about traveling from another country. They may point to another place within the same vicinity. So again, if this demonstrates anything for me, it demonstrates the power of indigenous narratives. The indigenous narratives cannot be ignored in favor of Western constructions. Okay? They cannot be ignored. Let's see if there's any other narrative that we can maybe see and draw some similarities. Let's see. Just give me a minute and then I'll find it. This is the closer, oh, this is the Tswana version. Oh, this is another Tswana version. Emerging from a hole, leaves a permanent footprint. It's still the same. Kiba roots. This is a dictionary of African myths. This one. Okay, there's something important here that I want to put. The creator, the molder. This is the Xhosa creator now. Some said that God emerged from a cave in the east. A cave called Daliwe, meaning creator. That's false. Daliwe doesn't mean creator. Daliwe means things that are more like natural things come out from there, not creator. Creator is Mdali. Daliwe means created. So it says that God came out of a cave, from a cave in the east, a cave called Daliwe. The crazy thing is that every single cave in Eastern Cape, where there's like cave paintings and all that, is called Daliwe. Look at this Xhosa narrative about a cave in the east, and look at this Naron narrative. What is the Naron narrative? Hishe or Hiesha, a supernatural being who lived somewhere in a house in the east. So we've heard the Naro people. The Kora also talk about their cows being in a what? In a large cave. We've heard the Nama as well talking about coming out of a hole in a flat rock. We've heard the Swati talking about Mlende Ngamunye and his footprint. We've heard them. Again, the Xhosa here talk about their creator, but if you actually look at the Xhosa, let's zoom in so that we can see what the last line. Note that Hodgson, citing oral evidence, indicates that Kamata was the original Xhosa creator. That is it. Then here they talk about Mdali, Tixo, and Kamata. But elders, as we know, even us as Xhosa people, all the elders acknowledge Kamata as the most original name. Today you have Bakhurutse telling you that they came from ancient Egypt. I'm like, no, your ancestors did not know that. You just made that up now to feel proud of a history that is not yours. That's it. You just made it up to feel proud of a history that's not yours. But let me show you something. The creator made the earth. This is the Xhosa creator. The people and all other living things. The Xhosa once believed that all people and all forms of animals life were brought forth by the creator from a subterranean cavern situated in a land which the sun rises east. Again, now where is east, guys? East is eastern, it's in Mpumalanga, it's KZN, it's Limpopo. All those places are east, okay? It's not any specific place. Just like the narrow talk about east, the Xhosa also talk about east. But it says all people and all forms of animal life were brought by the creator from a subterranean cavern. A subterranean cavern is what? It's an underground cave system. Something like this. Something like this. Okay? I've already named the book, Mos. I said the Dictionary of African Mythology. I literally said it. The Dictionary of African Mythology. But the book is not going to help you, man. You must focus on what I'm saying. The book is not going to help you at all. It's not a book that's going to teach these things. These things are not in a book. They're coming from me. Books are going to tell you stories that an informer told them. I'm the one making the connections. So forget about the book for now. If you want a book, you just go to my website, undoko.org, and then you contact me using that. But for now, we are not talking about books. We're talking about indigenous knowledge. Books are not going to help in this case. See, you come here. That's my website, undoko.org. But what I'm saying here is the Xhosa oral accounts tell us that this cave, okay, not necessarily this one, but olden times we had these underground systems. These underground systems were the center or the entry point. These were the entry point to advanced civilizations. I mean, in Oudtshoorn, we've got another cave system known as the Congo caves. We've got another ancient cave system known as the Congo cave. Hey, move, when man, move. Which we call Ukango. We don't call them Congo. We call them Ukango, which means the doorway, the entry. The doorway or the entry. These are the cave systems. You see? People lived here for a very long time. And now, it is important to understand this history that connects us to holes. Some of these holes had water. It was not just holes, but there was water as well. Some of these holes had roots of trees, okay? It's important to understand, because then that will help you understand some of the practices that our people do. Some of these places where our people say they originated, there were roots attached to those holes. There were reeds as well. Now you understand the significance of roots in some indigenous practices, the significance of water bodies, because the same water bodies are seen as palaces or royal places, or places where the most senior beings are to be found. For example, in my upbringing, we never call the river Umlambo or Mulapo. Mulapo, which is Kab, by the way. It's Kab for a stream in Kwedam, in Kwemana. Kwemana, we call the river Kab, which is Mulapo or Mlambo. We never called it that. We called it the Great House, which is the Royal House. Particularly a whirlpool within a river, not just the river, but the whirlpool area, the deep part of the river. When we understand the origin of the mythology, when we understand the significance and meaning behind the stories of origin of our people, you get why they do certain things. Why some people dive deep into bodies of water looking for some roots. That is the first thing I want to touch on today, to say stories of origin of the different peoples you find here have nothing to do with outside here. All the stories of origin are basically the same, whether it's Tram people, whether it's Owen people, whether it's Auckland people, whether it's Kora people, whether it's Nama people, whether it's Swati people, whether it's Zulu people, whether it's Sutu people, whether it's Tswana people, it's Xhosa people. You can go to all the different groups. I have no doubt you find similar stories. I have no doubt if you go to all the different groups, you'll find similar stories. Whether the story is talking about coming out of a hole, or the story is talking about coming down with a basket, we saw the Nama talking about Ukwehla. So the stories of origin, myth of origin, the characters in those stories, one-legged beings, Tikwa being hurt in the leg, Yishe, which we see as the Shona Ishe, or the Xhosa Heshe. Sometimes Yishe is called Hebeb, which is the Xhosa. Some of the clans will call out to Hebeb. Sometimes Hebeb is also called Heygabe, which we see in the clan name Heygabe, the great tree. Hey, Gabe means the great tree. Mtimkulu. Hey is a tree. Gabe means big, from the word gay or kai or kay. There are other stories that people came down even with the spider's web. Amaxhosa also talk about that version, where they came down with the spider's web and they were cut. Their connection with the heavens was cut with a reed. They came down with a spider's web. Amongst Bapudi, there are also people who say the exact same thing, that they came down with a spider's web. Or which means we came down with a spider's web. And usually the stars where people claim to have come from is the Pleiades. I know this is a real oral story that our people always link back to the Pleiades. You hear the Baputi, particularly the Kakeni, say, Yitsi labatheukie elitulwini. We came down from the sky. Asitalwa kufati. We were not born from a woman. we came from the skies and we landed on the earth. Yithi labakhaba levula litulu liyasibuluka. We came down from the sky. We descended on the earth. We walk with rain. Sigabaka mlagaladi. Bagalitulu liyasubuluka, liyasibekela. We come from the line of umlagaladi, the line of the sky that's preparing to rain. And we can see the Kalanga accounts of coming down with rain droplets. It tends to be rain makers who will link to rain. It tends to be rain people who will say they came from the sky, they came from rain. Talking about descending from the stars on top of a python. The same python that is seen as the secret of royal people. Ugoloma. It's seen as the secret of royal people. Royal power is there within the python. That's why the blood of a python was valued, because you take that, you wash a royal child who's going to rule someday. Again, indigenous stories. You cannot discount them. You cannot dismiss them for A1B1A nonsense. It cannot be. Our people must tell their own stories. Because I promise you, you will see that these stories have nothing to do with Europeans. Okay? Yeah. The next phase I'm going to get to is a practice known as isivivane. Give me a minute. I want to introduce you to isivivane. Before that, I want to give my brother, once he's back, to say a thing or two before we move to Isivivan. But Isivivan is a heap of stones. It's a heap of stones that tends to be next to the graves of ancient kings. It's not just Zulu, man. Even in Xhosa, Isivivan is there. Next to ancient kings, or next to dangerous parts of a road where a traveler maybe would not be able to make it. But we'll touch on this. I'll give you Brother Makara to have a say, to say a thing or two.
Brother.
Muren.
Can you please maximize me? I want to touch on a little bit about what you said
right.
when you're talking about
All right.
Yes. So I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, I can hear you.
So yeah, so let me just make this a little bit big. Let me see. Yeah, so sorry. So just to corroborate what brother is talking about, that these are real life events. Right? If you go to Botswana, as he was telling you, and they're talking about the footprints of Matsieng, they are there. As you can see. They are there.
Yeah.
It's not what he's talking about. It's something that has never been seen. This is even a natural, what do they call, a national heritage site, right, in Botswana. So you can go and check it out for yourself, where you can actually see like these areas that we are talking about. that it's not a fallacy. It's just that when you are able to go back and check your own history, that's when you will start finding these nuances. You understand? But the thing is, the point that you touched on when you spoke about missionaries is actually being underplayed. But it's actually something that has made people, not seeing the light of our stories, right? And how legit our stories are, because we go today and there's notions most that we come from a woman, a mudimu or God, as you are trying to separate the two to show that these are not the same things. These are not these people are not coming from the same origin, if we can put it like that. Where there's these ones, which is our people here from the south, speaking about coming from a whole underground caverns, being in caves, etc., etc. Right? But when you now go into the Biblios or Heliobiblios or the Holy Bible, you start getting a story of people being created from ribs, people being created by God. And if you understand the etymology of the word God, you would see that it is not even close to what Matieng is, or it's not even close to what Kamata is, or it's not even close to what Tikwab is. That's the first thing that we also need to understand from those bases. If we can understand that base, that no, these are not even the same entities, because according to their ideology, we are not living the same cosmology. That's also another thing. Our stories are somewhat different, But I wanted to also go into the starting, but I'll get there when I'll talk about it when you get there, because there's a correlation I also wanted to make with regards
No, it's
to
fine.
the
You can
personification that we
start.
were.
You can introduce it. It's fine.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, because it ties into the whole God thing. It ties into the whole Mudimu thing everywhere. One thing we also need to understand is the translations of these ideas. And I'm talking about the Holy Bible, where in the 1900s, you have the first translation of the Basotho Bible. But the stories we are talking about are ancient. And that's the punchline. The stories that we are talking about are ancient. And the missionaries got here and they started writing the Holy Bible according to them, translating it into our language, making it look like what we are talking about when we are talking about Tikwab or Matieng or Law, where we are talking about God. It's not the same thing. And I would like to demonstrate that. I hope you don't get a strike, my king, because I want to play a video, which is going to be the punchline of what we are showing. Remember when we did the live the other day, I spoke about the sun being personified as Jesus and dying 3 days, blah, 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 and rising. And him rising is the sun actually rising 1 degree. So here's a video actually corroborating what I was talking about, so that people don't think I was just faffing. Okay?
Well, disciples, which he traveled about with
Quickly.
miracles such as healing the sick, walking on water, raising the dead. He was also known as the King of Kings, the Son of God, the Light of the World, the Alpha and Omega, the Lamb of God, and many, many others. After being betrayed by his disciple Judas and sold for 30 pieces of silver, he was crucified, placed in a tomb, and after 3 days was resurrected and ascended into heaven. First of all, the birth sequence is completely astrological. The star in the east is Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, which, on December 24th, aligns with the 3 brightest stars in Orion's belt. These 3 bright stars in Orion's belt are called today what they were called in ancient times, the 3 kings. And the 3 kings and the brightest star, Sirius, all point to the place of the sunrise on December 25th. This is why the 3 kings follow the star in the east in order to locate the sunrise, the birth of the sun. The Virgin Mary is the constellation Virgo, also known as Virgo the Virgin. Virgo in Latin means virgin. Virgo is also referred to as the house of bread, and the representation of Virgo is a virgin holding a sheaf of wheat. This house of bread and its symbol of wheat represents August and September, the time of harvest. In turn, Bethlehem, in fact, literally translates to house of bread. Bethlehem is thus a reference to the constellation Virgo, a place in the sky, not on Earth. There's another very interesting phenomenon that occurs around December 25th, or the winter solstice. Summer solstice to the winter solstice, the days become shorter and colder. And from the perspective of the northern hemisphere, the sun appears to move south and get smaller and more scarce. The shortening of the days and the expiration of the crops when approaching the winter solstice symbolize the process of death to the ancients. It was the death of the sun. And by December 22nd, the sun's demise was fully realized. For the sun, having moved south continually for 6 months, makes it to its lowest point in the sky. Here a curious thing occurs. The sun stops moving south, at least perceivably, for 3 days. And during this 3-day pause, the sun resides in the vicinity of the Southern Cross, or Crux, constellation. And after this time, on December 25th, the sun moves 1 degree, this time north, foreshadowing longer days, warmth, and spring. And thus it was said, the sun died on the cross, was dead for 3 days, only to be resurrected or born again. This is why Jesus and numerous other sun gods share the crucifixion.
Okay, that's the punchline. So remember when we were talking about, oh, my camera is so bad. Pardon me, guys. That's what I wanted to show when I was talking about the esoteric knowledge systems that is being used religiously. That these celestial bodies are now put in books as spells to make, and they are personified, and people are taking it literal. And this is just astrology. This 25 thing, as the brother was talking about last week, pardon me, 2 days ago, when Brother Sandile was talking about Santa Claus and all of that, it's all interwoven into this story. That it's an ancient story. It's an astrological story, because he actually starts the story from ancient Egypt. I just wanted to get there on the punchline, because that's what we were talking about when we were talking about the death of JC and all of that. That all of this is astrology. And you just need to be able to understand the esoteric part of it. And that's what they're not telling you about. So when we are taking it to our now astrology or cosmology, is us now showing you what it is, what are the months in our names, what are the seasons in our names, so you don't get hooked on these phonics. So that you don't, because you are basically following the northern hemisphere astrology. Your rising of the sun is in a different time, where you are starting to get more days as compared to more nights. It's a different phenomenon for us. It's not happening in December. It's happening around June, July, I think. You see what I'm saying? So when we start following our own astrology, we are not following their timeline. We are not following their energy points. And that is important, because this is embedded in this so-called religion. You understand? So right now, as the brother will be showing you, the star systems, as we had started, right, in the previous days, where we showed you the star systems, the names of the stars, the names of the sun, the name of the galaxy, our star systems, and their names. Once we understand that, you will be able to see the differences, and then you are living in a different system as compared to following a northern hemisphere system. You get it? Because now they have actually intertwined their astrology into religion. I trust people could also see that, like, as I was saying, that JC is the SUN and the SON. Again, phonics. You see
Please
what I'm
answer the
saying?
question
So
there,
yes, you can-
Muren. There's a question there in the comments.
Is what? Is Jesus buried? There's no such a thing. You see what I'm saying? It's the exact thing that I'm saying when I'm saying hooked on phonics. It's a concept. When I'm saying hooked on phonics in Klegas, it's a concept where people are spellbound by English and grammar. where now they intertwine these stories. You are reading them in English, and you are reading a Northern Hemisphere astrological phenomenon, and you are thinking it's a global phenomenon because they are selling this idea that Jesus died for all of us. That's what they say. Jesus died for all of us. He died for our sins. No, man, it's just an astrological phenomenon. I just showed you. It's got nothing to do with someone being, you know what I'm saying? So if you're gonna be saying that, it's like buying this thing that Jesus Christ is umsindisi. Do you know that there's a story that Jesus Christ is umsindisi? He was born amongst amaXhosa in Bethlehem here in Free State. And that John the
My
Baptist.
brother.
I'm serious. And that John the Baptist was taken in Robben Island, which was Patmos. But Patmos is there in Europe. Why is it doing here now? We know that even Robben Island is a noun name. We had our own name for that place. But that's what I mean by unhooking the phonics. Where you are, when you learn your language, you are unhooking the phonics. You get to know the stars by your own cosmology. As you were showing, Mhlekazi, the three the three stars, Kidikulubo, they call them the three kings. You understand what I'm saying? So when you understand that story in your own analogy, you are not hooked on this Jesus story. This is a double gag where I'm actually punching through, or I'm punching through religion and fake astrology, where astrology has been religiousized. That's what it is. The SUN and the SON, where the SUN has been made the SON to a point that people believe the SON as God. You know how people will say Jesus Christ is God, and like it goes that deep. People just say it nje willy-nilly, like, oh, uJesu uNkulunkulu wami. But if you go deep into it, it's an astrological fallacy, number one, and a historical fallacy, because we just proved that this is a historical phenomenon. But people will come and say, oh, Tacitus came and he proved that Jesus Christ was living. But Tacitus lived 500 years after the so-called story of Jesus. So there is a lot of analysis that still needs to be done. And you don't just take it at face value. That's also what I'm trying to present. That this is deep. And as you're doing the work of showing astrology in the cosmology and the astrology in our perspective, it breaks these spells. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. There's a lot of things that have come out from what you said. A lot of things, which I would like, maybe we put a note down, or you remind me. In the course of our discussion, I would like for you to remind me to just quickly address the fact that there's Bethlehem in South Africa, to quickly address Capernaum, Cape Town being called Capernaum, to address Robben Island being called Patmos Island. Quickly address that. That is the Hebrew Israelite concoctions. There's another pandemic besides the Bantu migration one. In the past, they used to work together. So if you could just help me, but I want to start with this, then we'll get back to that quickly. So that is the first subject. Thank you, T. Kasab, Kai Kasab, Kukuche. Thank you for that contribution. That was very insightful. Next, now, I would like to quickly touch on this, and it will connect to some of the stuff you were saying. We discussed now in the first, I think, how long have we been? In the first 1 hour, 30 minutes, I guess, we've discussed myths of origin, stories of origin, and all that. And the difference of the context of these as to Europeans. Ne? Now, I want to touch on something else. This story, it adds onto the sun. It adds onto the sun. It also adds on to sunrise, okay? And Mlenze Ngamunye, of course, and it's a continuation of that. I'm introducing you to Haiti Habib. Haiti Habib, also known as Gaiti or Haiti Habib, is a so-called mythic hero or figure in mythology of the so-called Khoi people. He is sometimes depicted as a trickster and with Gaunab and Twigwab in central blah 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 blah. Okay. These are the stories I've been telling you guys. He fought Gang Orib, which is Gongongo or Gunu, according to the Zulu and Xhosa. He fought Gang Orib, he defeated Gang Orib. You guys should already know that. But now, Haiti Abib is also referred to as this specific thing. This heap of stones is also called Haiti Abib, which is to say the place of Abib. But what is Abib? Abib is the tree, the one who looks like a tree, or the one who is amongst trees. You would remember I spoke about Ishe. Here. Ishe is also another name for a tree. Let's quickly go back to Ishe. Let's go back to Ishe. It's a lord of trees because he is a tree. He is just another way to say muti. It's mui or tree. Muti, it's a tree. So Yishe, it's uyise wemithi or he who is amongst the bushes. There's an old story about how Tiqwab loved the indigenous music, and he would go alone to the forests to play the musical instrument. But anyway, that is the name. Yisha, it's the same as Hitze. Hitze. Hitze and Haiti and Hisha is the same, right? Now, with all the stories of the past and how he was a ruler, he opened the sea for his people to pass. I've already addressed this on a video. I published a video on my YouTube, I published a video on my TikTok, where Dulube, the limping cow or the limping bull, and also Tweetwab opened up the waters. I've touched on that story. I've touched on the story of resurrection. You make the connections you make. I've touched on the story of resurrection and the story of opening the sea and the story of loving music. Now, at the death of Abib or Aseb or Hise or Yishe, he was buried underneath these as a remembrance. So these are what you would say then a monument for the death of Habib or the ancient king, which would say then is Mlenze Ngamunye or Mlente Munye or Tobecha ya Pachwa, or we would say it's Lowe in some instances. It doesn't matter. The point is that this then is a remembrance of that entity. And therefore, in the past, elders would see this as a sign, a reminder to go and pray. Like the Muslims, and the prayer obviously will be something like, may the Great One help us have a great journey ahead, or something like that, okay? Let me see if I can find a story. Let me see. Okay, yeah, I'm going to read this story for you quickly. One historical instance of a degree of worship of the Xhosa creator is outlined here. A Xhosa custom of considerable antiquity, also seen amongst the Zulu, was that of the Isivivane or the stone cane. In 1967, Broster referred to a father's description of an Isivivane in the then Transkei in 1880. The father, while traveling on horseback and accompanied by a Xhosa guide, came across Isivivane in a gorge known as Ecala. Aibo. Known as Cala, near Cala. The guide immediately halted, dismounted, got off the horse, picked up a stone, removed his beaded headband, and very reverently placed the stone on the pile of stones. That was his prayer. Lying on one side of the footpath, the guide exclaimed, "May the Great One take care of us on our journey." This guide rather reluctantly explained to Brewster's father that it was the custom when coming across an Isvivane to remove one's headdress and to cast a stone on the pile. Travelers should ask the Great One to take care of them while on their journey or request some special assistance which might be required. The guide was unable to answer any specific questions on the type of being or his abode. Brewster's father stated that he had known of a Xhosa who had made a special and lengthy trip to a place of stone on an Isivivane and to invoke a particular request. Brewster's father was aware of only 2 other such cairns in the general locality named blah blah blah. It's just a recollection of an event. But you can find out more about Isvivane. But Isvivane really is somewhat of an altar, an indigenous altar of stone, where if kings had passed in a place, maybe there was a war, and then warriors were unalived, these things will be put up in that place. Or next to a very dangerous area, you will find a lot of Isivivane there. A traveler picks up a stone, puts it there, on top of the others, and then maybe spits even, or leaves something like a branch of a tree or whatever, and will ask for a good journey, okay? And there are many other instances of even animals acting as angels, like we saw with the Imbundulu bird being seen as an angel of death. There are other birds that are seen as angels of life. For example, the Cape wagtail, umcelu or umcelumvemve or umvechane or umvemve. That is a bird of fortune, bird of good luck. If you see that bird, you even praise it. We also have another bird, inqwangi nenkilo, which are known as birds of luck, good fortune. Even the crow, actually, it's a messenger. The black bird called a crow, it is a messenger as well. But that's for another day, including some pigeons, It's just that indigenous knowledge has become obsolete in the minds of indigenous people. Now, these things are only relevant as long as you keep them relevant. They are only effective as long as you keep them effective. That is how it works, If you have a memory of something, you're keeping it alive. If you don't have a memory of it, you're killing it. That is really how it works. So Isivivane then was a prayer place. It was an altar. It is a prayer place. You see Isivivane, you go to Isivivane, you offer supplication, you put a stone on top of it. This is what then is called Haiti Abib. At the death of Hiseb or Hise in the past, a heap of stones was put up, and this heap of stone operates in a similar fashion to say, Haiti Habib, guide us, help us have a good trip ahead. Now, I want to show you something. I want to show you something about my mother's people. The people known as Amanzot. You see, these people will invoke Habib in their clan names. Firstly, the names, you also find it in other languages like Kilobedu. They will have Zotwa. It means brown in respect to cows, brown cows. But it also means a star. Zoto is also a star. And then Inyelenzi is also a star, particularly if you see like Vatsonga, they will say Nyeleti. Basotho, Batswana will have Naledi. Yeah, so Nzoto, Nyelenzi. And then we still have Ntsibankulu, Ngala Xuxa, Ngangenqanqasini, Qham. I see they are not here. But there's this one here, Hebebe, or Hebebe, which is Haib. Haibeb, Hebebe, or Habeb. It is invoked by Amanzot. Now, here's the thing. It's not just Amanzot. There's another group known as the Hegeba Esibe. We know the Esibe are Abatwa. Others are just myths, Esibe is a Twa word. It's a Kunkia word. It's in reference to people who lived in sandy areas. But if you notice here, Hegebe, it's Hey Gabe. Hey Gabe. Big tree. This word Hegebe is Umtimkulu, the great tree. Is again a reference to Heitze Abeb. Remember, we said Heitze Abeb, you see, the one who's like a tree or who's amongst trees. Now, I want to show you something. Some constellations, the Gemini constellation, at some times of the earth, of the year, aligns with the planets like your Venus, particularly around the springtime, when we're moving towards the equinox. You will tend to see this looking like a tree there in the sky, like a great tree, a haygabe or ihegeba. Now, interestingly, if you know the gentleman called Holomisa, these are his people, the Hegebe or the Heygabe. It's the people of Holomisa. In fact, they are here. Those guys, Holomisa. He's a chief. He comes from the royal bloodline of these Heygabe peoples. So, yeah, you find that amongst some clan names. And there are many clan names that actually, or people who don't know what the significance of their clan names is. Because if you look, Hey Gabe, a reference to the great tree, Ndala, reference to a stone. Ndala is a stone. It's a stone. It's a Kwinkia word. It's a stone, Indala. Some people say Udwala. Some people say Ndalama stone. If you go to the Tsonga peoples, they will talk about the Ndalama stone. Indala. All right. So then this is a form of stone heap that was an early form of an altar, even some form of altar, not for offering though, particularly not for sacrifices, but for supplications and prayers. If you are on a trip, on a dangerous trip, you stop everything, you pass by Isivivane, you pick up a stone, you put it there. To this day, our vocabulary addresses that. If you want to add, let's say someone has spoken at length about a subject, if you want to add, then you will say, hey, khawuthi ndibeke esivivaneni nam, or khawuthi ndiphose esivivaneni, to say, let me contribute further to what you're saying. So that is the other point I wanted to make then, that again, those stories of mythology of origin have real life relevance, because you will not understand the significance of his Vivan if you do not understand the story of Uthixo, the story of Umlenze Munye or Umlente Ngamunye. If you don't understand the story of Haiseb or Yishe, you will not see how it is relevant today, that generally the graves of ancient kings or the graves of heroes are somehow in this manner, because this is a form of a grave that is meant to honor the one that it is made for. So again, this is me arguing the importance and significance and relevance of indigenous narratives. So the next point I would like to make is to just quickly address the names, of places. The names of places, like it was mentioned now, the place name of Cape Town, Capernaum, Bethlehem, etc. And then after that, I'll give Brother Lee another chance to speak. Then we'll move to personification. In which case we do have to talk about we do have to talk about, firstly, understanding celestial bodies like the sun and the moon and what they are linked to, the sky and the earth and what they are linked to, and where then we get to personification. But I want to just touch on something small here. Okay. Another version cited by Hodgson in 1982 is that the original Xhosa man and his wife descended in remote times through a window, a hole, onto the earth, which means they came down. This is another Xhosa account. Besides the one of coming from stones, there's another one that they came down from the sky through a window onto the earth. And then another related version is of the myth that the first people who had tails, again, further supporting my point that the race of umlenze ngamunye or mlenze munye, or those gongarib or amagunqugunqu or amagongqongqo, was some kind of animal human race or shape-shifting humanic animalistic people, because it said that the first people had tails. They came down from the sky on the filaments of a spider. Ubulembu besirhu or ubulembu besigcawu. This is according to Bishop Mabona in 2004. He does actually make some really good contributions, Bishop Mabona, on this topic. He says that the filaments are also said to be the means by which the first being went up to the sky after becoming disenchanted with mankind. The filaments likewise enabled the sky people to go up and down between heaven and earth. Mabona speculated that the filaments could well be associated with the what? The concept of life and death. These filaments are said to have been cut off for human beings with a reed, umhlanga, and therefore producing the whole concept of abantu abaphuma eluhlangeni. Now, these filaments, I know according to Baputi, they talk about ubulebu besirhu. Now, I want to see maybe if we could find something like that where they are saying that bathoke bulebu besirhu. But if I can't find it, then it's fine. It's fine. But yeah, even amongst Baputi, you do find a lot of accounts where they say bona they came down with ubulebu besirhu. Ubulebu besirhu now literally means the filament of a spider. So again, you see that constant alignment between the different groups, and for me that speaks volumes, because it speaks to a consistency that cannot just be dismissed as randomness. No, it's a consistency of narrative amongst these groups, and that should mean something. That should point us somewhere, whether it points us maybe it points us to common origin, but it points us somewhere that the ancient history of these peoples is somehow related. All right. So now the next chapter, I think we've spoken about 30 minutes on this topic. The next chapter of the life, I want to quickly address something. I just heard that the grave of Jesus is in KZN. I didn't know that the grave of Jesus is in KZN. It's my first time hearing it. I guess these things are developing very fast, eh? But I want to check something quickly here. I'll share my screen in a minute. I want to look at the names, I want to look at the names and where they come from, so that we don't lie to ourselves, guys. There's something called folk etymology. Folk etymology is when things seem to sound the same, but they actually have no relationship with each other. I've seen this becoming a danger more and more now these years. I don't know, maybe it's an after effect of anti-intellectualism or what, but clearly there's a problem where people don't even want to think for themselves anymore. If it sounds the same, it is the same. And it's not just religious people, it's all sorts of people, historians, people who claim to be in science. Hey, all sorts of people, man, it's just crazy. But yeah, that is it. So I just want to quickly read here. Let's start with Capernaum. You see, there was a guy called Bartholomew Dias. Bartholomew Dias. He was a Portuguese, the first European to reach the area of so-called Cape Town. In 1488, he called it Cabo das Tormentas. The reason why they called it Cabo das Tormentas, because the winds were just too much for their little vessels to handle. So they felt like, damn. In fact, they even had a mythology that the Table Mountain was a giant, an ancient giant that was banished from the Olympians. So that's why even to this day in the Cape Flats, there's a place called Mannenberg. Mannenberg means the man en berg, the man in the mountain. Die Mannenberg. When you are in the Cape Flats and you are looking towards the city of Cape Town, you will not see the city of Cape Town from the Cape Flats. You will see a mountain. Let me quickly show you. From the Cape Flats, you will never see the city of Cape Town. It's not visible. Because the city of Cape Town is covered by the back of Table Mountain. So what you will see is something that looks like a man laying down. Let me quickly click here. Okay, this is definitely Khayelitsha. I want you to see some of the mythological stories that the Portuguese told, some of their stories and beliefs. Okay, where's this picture now? Okay, it's not here. It's fine. Let's take the other one. Let's take this one of Mannenberg. You see, this is Mannenberg, right? I know it because I've been there. If you look here, this is Devil's Peak. This is the back table. And then if you go here, this is the Newlands area. This is Constantia Berg, right? You go all the way to Musenberg. But here, this is the Cape Flats. Behind the mountain, it's Table Mountain in the city of Cape Town. So this looks like a nose of someone looking up. This looks like the chest area. So this is the nose, this is the eye socket, the ridge here. This is the head, right? And so this is the man and berg, the person or the man in the mountain looking up. So clearly the Portuguese and the early Dutch had their own ideas. But the Portuguese particularly call it Cabo das Tormentas. And this is why now it was renamed by John II, João II of Portugal. He then renamed it to say, no, we'll call it Cabo da Boa Esperança. Esperança, yes. Cabo da Boa Esperança. Boa means good, right? Like when I say good night in Portuguese, boa noite. Good day, bom dia. But yeah, Cabo da Boa Esperança, the Cape of Good Hope, is an opposite of the Cape of Storms. So again, it's not Capernaum, it's Cabo. Cape is just a cognate of the word Cabo. It's a cape. It's a cognate of Cabo. What is a cape in our language? It's intlonto. Intlonto or isiphongo, an extension of land into the water, a tongue of land into the water. It's not Capernaum. It's not. It's Cabo da Boa Esperança. However, Cape Town itself was called Gui sorry, by different groups. Gui by different groups in reference to the clouds that gather in the area. The clouds that gather in the area. But also other groups called Cape Town Gui. Now, Gui is a stone. Gib is a place, the stone place, in reference now to the colonial castle that was built there. The colonial castle that was built there. So some groups used to call it Gib, which means the stony place, the place of stone. But the older groups would say Gui, the place of clouds, or the clouds that are bound together. We call that the tablecloth today. It's a very cloudy place, Cape Town. Very, very cloudy place. So, again, nothing to do with Capernaum. We must stop lying, guys. Stop lying. Just because you want it to be true, it's not. Cape Town is not Capernaum. It's not Capernaum. It's the clouds that gather there. Now, let's look at what Capernaum is, actually. It's Capernaum, right? Capernaum. If you look at the Strong's Concordance of Greek, it's actually of Hebrew origin. It comes from the word kaper, which means a village. In Hebrew, it's kafar. 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 It's a village. A village as protected by walls. Therefore, it's kafar. And then, Naum means to breathe in Hebrew, or to rest, or to be comfortable. Comfortable, or Nahum the prophet. So Capernaum would then be the village of rest, the village of comfort, basically. That's what it would mean. It would mean village of rest or village of comfort. Nothing to do with our place, Gui. Nothing to do with Gui. That is Capernaum. Now let's look at Patmos. Is Patmos even here? Let's look at Patmos, because here's the thing, guys. You can't claim Patmos is here. Patmos, firstly, even in the Bible, it was not a Hebrew place. So you want to claim you're a Hebrew, Mara, you are claiming things that have nothing to do with you. They don't even know what Patmos means. Okay? So it can't be here, because it was a foreign place even then for them. John was taken to a foreign place. So you can't say then Robben Island is Patmos. So that's already out of the picture. Then you have Bethlehem. The Bethlehem town in South Africa, guys, was named by the Calvinist Afrikaners, who are white supremacists. It was named by them, not by us. If people took time to learn these things, you wouldn't need to force anything, actually. You would know that at the core of the word Bethlehem, it's house of bread. That's what it means. Beit Lechem. Beit Lechem, house of bread. Libota lehlama, or ya lihlama. Lihlama, inhlama, ibonda lenhlama. Bethlehem, house of dough or house of bread. You wouldn't need to fake it. You would understand that we are the source of language of the world. Therefore, any other language can still be traced back to us, including this one, without forcing a colonial name to use as a proof of anything. So again, and man, there's many others. There's that in the Karoo. There's a municipality they called Canaanland municipality. People even use that Canaanland municipality to say it was Canaan. That's why it's Canaanland municipality. No, it's not Canaanland municipality because it was Canaan. It's because it was named by Europeans. The place is Karoo. That's what it is. Karoo means hard land. Murenak, you can comment.
I have seen that nonsense. And the problem is that people don't even get to check like when was the city formed, like that name of that city. You understand what I'm saying? Like if you drive around these towns, usually there's a story there. They will put a story. It was named by this person at this time. You know, even that Robben Island, there is a story there that it was named by Lord whoever in 18 something. And then someone is gonna say it's Patmos. Like, really? Do you know Patmos? It's mentioned way before 1800s there in Europe. But then, yeah.
That's the problem. When people don't want to think, that is the. And also, there's another place. There's a group of mountains called the 12 Apostles. 12 Apostles will be used as well for the same thing, but it's just Europeans naming these things, guys. Come on, we need to wake up now. Man, I want to show you quickly. It's a group of mountains here in the Atlantic seaboard. In the Atlantic seaboard, it's called 12 Apostles. What you know, the dangers of doing that is that you are killing the actual history of the place in favor of made up stuff, and you're making yourself look crazy. Last year, there was a woman here claiming that there's going to be a rapture and that people are going to be taken to heaven. And those who won't be taken will be going to hell. That never happened. Including the likes of Enigma, who says in the same light that yellow-skinned, light-skinned people are smelling. They smell somehow. If you have light skin, that makes you smelly to God. This is the kind of people that people must listen to. The kind of garbage that is in their minds. Abantu abangama-yellow bone bayanuka ama-yellow bone. Hayibo. The same people about the yellow bone ayanuka will also come and tell you that rapture is going to happen and people are going to be taken to the sky and then everyone will be left behind. It's the same people who will come and tell you that 12 apostles is because the 12 apostles were living here. They were South African. Nonsense. I know that thing of Umsindis. I know that thing of Umsindisi, that we as Umsindis. The truth is that if they knew Hebrew, they would know that to save in Hebrew is not Umsindis, ukusindisa. In Hebrew, to save would be equivalent to ukoyisa in isiXhosa. That is the context in which it is written. It's not written just to ukusindisa, like to help someone escape. It's more like to conquer, to have victory over something in Hebrew. If they actually took time to learn the Hebrew that they claim to know. So this thing of 12 apostles, it's colonial. There's nothing to do with South Africa being the ancient Palestine or whatever. And these are narratives that are dangerous when you want to ignore the indigenous history of the place in favor of foreign ideas. Just yesterday, let me see if I can find it. Just yesterday, and I knew it was going to get to that, I found a live I found a live of this. I don't know if you guys can read it, but in this live, there's an Igbo man there commenting that Igbo land South Africa belongs to the Igbos. It's their ancient land, apparently. I'm not even joking. It's here. It's on the screenshot, but maybe it's not visible. In a live that I was in, there's a narrative now that actually the original indigenous South Africans are Igbo people. And I knew it. I knew. That was the point since. You get me? And they will take anything that they can use. If it's Bantu migration, they'll take Bantu migration. Although they never cared about the whole Bantu identity to begin with. They will take Bantu migration. If it's white supremacist dogma, they'll take white supremacist dogma. If it's white supremacist Calvinist ideas, they'll take white supremacist Calvinist ideas. Anything to claim and delegitimize and nullify the actual indigenous people. Even this thing, it's in the same measure. This thing of claiming that these places are somehow Israelite places. Because then, if this is ancient Israel, if South Africa is ancient Israel, that means it's the ancient home of people who are not here. Therefore, they must come back home. Because that is the premise. The premise is that the original inhabitants must come back home. You understand what I'm saying? That's the only way that they can allow the Bible to unfold. They must come back home. They must be returned back to their ancient home. Which means we are the ones who are invaders here. That is the premise, guys. That's why they keep on pushing that we're not from here. We're invaders who wiped out everyone. And then those that they cannot, alienate from the land, then they will call, those ones are Canaanites. They'll be our slaves. Because that's what Canaanites were. Hewers of wood and fetchers of water. This is the exact same narrative with the apartheid. Delegitimize the indigenous people and take over from them. Delegitimize and take over from them. Muren, 2 minutes and then we move.
And that is the crux of, I'm sorry, I'm gonna say it, and that is the crux of why I hate religion. For that very same reason. Because it's the very same playbook or modus operandi that the white Calvinists used when they got here. Almost they were writing books and calling our people kafirs. If you understand what does the word kafir mean, it means non-believer. So if you are not believing in their God or their Jehovah or their Yahweh, it means they have a right to unalive you because you are not human, Mus. You see what I'm saying? And the people that you are talking about are black people. They look like me and you. But they're pushing this narrative that we are Bantu, we came here, we invaded the Khoisan. Reading from the white books, reading from the very same books, taking the very same modus operandi. Today there are prestigious people in society, abafundisi. They push traditional churches called Zion, ZCC, and whatnot. I hate this thing. I'm sorry, because it pacifies the original story of the people of the land. Because it means that even if you come and you tell people the truth, they'll be like, "Amos, you are an unbeliever, when." So we don't have to listen to you. Actually, we can make you a slave, as you just said. Because the people that place that you call Canaan is where our queer people stay. And it basically means they call them Bushmen, and means they can just do as they want, as you said. You see what I'm saying? That's why I hate this thing, man. I'm sorry. I use that word strongly so because it just removes our people. You see, changing the names of the places, changing the names of the people, calling them non-believers, and giving yourself a superiority complex to think that God has given you the authority to take over someone's land. I mean, please.
That's correct. That is correct, sir. And that's the thing, Canaan land it's not land of Canaan. Canaan land, you find many different groups. You find in the past Hesekwa, you find Otinikwa, you found Kamkakwi or Swakakwi. You find all different groups there. Nothing to do with Palestine. That's the most important thing. And these people will change the stuff as they will. That's the thing. They will change the story to whatever satisfies them. They will change it. If the story doesn't align with them, they will change it. Okay? Let me show you what an indigenous of Canaan land would look like. This is a proper Korah here. This is a Korah proper. I know Tikasab Wacheseb Tikai Kasab Kauseb knows this gentleman. This guy Gaukaub of the Karamakais Korah Queen. So people related to this guy Gaukaub would be inhabiting the so-called Canaan land. This is Kai Kareb. Yes. And there next to him is what I'm talking about, the Eitzi Habib. There's the Eitzi Habib there. The people of the land know. They know the language of the land. They understand the meaning of the language of the land. They are not delusional, the people of the land. Know exactly who they are. They know themselves. They did not disappear. They did not go extinct. The people of the land know themselves. And that is very important. You see, even here there's a grave, but you can see the stones. Maswika. Yes, Maswika Mukon. Also Mafika. That's why there in Matatiele you have Lifika Labo Khiba. Lifika Labo Khiba. The word Khiba, if you knew, it's Kwinkia itself. It's Khiba. It's Kwinkia. So we must stop with the nonsense, man. We must stop with the nonsense and actually. And the sad thing is that you are dealing not only now with European narratives anymore. You are actually dealing with European narratives in the mind of native people. So they are an even stronger force now because they've internalized the European garbage. And that is the sad thing. They've internalized the European garbage. And you will be in for a run when you try to deal with them. They don't see the light. And they will drag everyone into the dark with them. Everyone into the dark with them. All right. I want to touch on a few things linguistically now. Before we move to the next section. I just want to touch on a few things linguistically. Just give me a sec. Give me a second, and then we'll just look at a few things. One of the topics I was looking at this week is sound alternation, the changing of sound, and how the changing of sound produces new words, new sounds, right? Before we start, I'm just gonna play a bit with you guys. I'm just gonna boast quickly. You see here, you've got, you've got this word, kokai in Korah. It's to cover over something. It's to cover over something. I'm flexing now. We say tina ukuquka. Gquka, uyayigquka le nto ndiyithethayo lo mntana. My mother would say that. Suyigquka le nto ndiyithethayo wena. Suyigquka. Don't cover what I'm saying here. Eh? But also amaZulu, when they cover their bodies, bathi bayagqoka. Hayi, isigqoko to cover the head. Isigqoko. You're covering yourself, uyagqoka. In Kora, you say gqokai, gqokai. In Kora, you say gqecha, gqau, to say happy with a cheerful heart. Gqecha, gqau. Gqau is the heart. Gqecha is the word. Tsecha, or seha, or sera, or seya, or hleka. It's gqecha. It's not from Congo, seka. From here, gqecha. Gqecha. Oh, my God. All right. Konjo, I wanted to flex on you guys. Now I forgot what I wanted to show you. But before that, take this word. Now, anyone who has been, I want to see if you guys have learned from what I was saying. If I take this word gay and I put a feminine ending to it, what word do I get from gay? Please write it down for those of you who have been learning. If I take gay and I give it a feminine ending, what does it give us? What does it give us? Both feminine and masculine, actually. Both feminine and masculine. Grace and Gabe, ne? Grace and Gabe. What if I told you? What if I told you that Grace and Gabe are the same word? They mean to choose something, to select something. IPW, what's happening with you? Are you being serious now? All right. Look now what the word means. Gay, in a masculine ending, it's grace. It's grace, which means to hire or to employ. Grace, to hire or to employ. People say ukuqasha or ukuqesha. AmaXhosa athi ukuqasha. Where I'm from, we say qesha. Qes. Qes. But if you put a masculine ending, it's qabe. Qabe. Qabe is also to choose. It's also to choose. Ukuqamba. Now, ukuqamba and ukuqasha is the same word in essence. Because ukuqasha is to choose, right? To choose something. Yes. You choose something and then, or someone to do work for you and then you pay them. Or you choose something like to rent it out, then you pay for it. But it's also related to another word, ukuqaja. Ukuqaja. Ukuqaja is to choose, to claim something. I remember when we were kids, as kids, you see a girl passing. You see a girl passing and they're like, that's mine. And the guys were like, uyaqaja wena. Uyaqaja wena. I understand. Uyaqaja. But also to guess. To guess. Qais is also to guess. That's why we say kash. When we're playing guess. We'd say kash. Dinantoni na up, and then they would guess. Yes, ukuqagela. You understand? Ukuqagela. So ukuqaja, say even to be proud of yourself, ukuqaja. Now that one is a little different. Ukuqaja, to be proud of yourself, is a little different. It's I, but to be good, like to feel good about yourself. Qaicha. Gqaitsha, to feel good about yourself, it's to be proud about yourself. Gqaitsha. Okay? All right. Let's look at this one. Qabi or Qabi. Qabi. To ride. Qabi. There's a guy where I grew up. There's a guy whose surname is Qabi. Qabi. That is to say a rider. Qabib. A rider. Qabib. Umqabeli. Ukuqabela. Which in Kunkia manifests in two forms. Qabi, qabela. Ukuthi qabe. Or qamela. Okay. I remembered what I wanted to show you guys. I remembered. I want to show you something. I want to show you something, guys. Why is not showing now? Let me just clean my camera quickly. Satan, there's a devil that doesn't want me to show this. Also, guys, you can't blame the devil for everything, eh? People were saying that the devil is trying to destroy Limpopo Boy's life.
Hayi loyo yazi ukuthi wenzani loyo.
I'm like, the devil didn't do anything to Limpopo Boy.
Wazi
Stop
kahle
playing with
ukuthi
the
wenzani
devil,
loyo.
yeah. Yes, man. Dlala ngabantu up. Oh no, it's not me. It's like blaming Idlozi as well, you know. Latoya is busy saying, no, it's not me, it's Idlozi, guys. Guys, you see, accountability, it is the first recipe to a successful society. A society that doesn't have accountability is a doomed society. Look at the condition of Nigeria today. People are eating dogs and cats and humans because there is no sense of accountability. They think a simple sorry will get them off the hook. No, that's not how it works. You don't just say, no, it's the devil, I'm sorry. Oh, no, it's Idlozi. Lidlozi, guys, it's not me. Lidlozi, I'm sorry. Nah, that's not how it works. You need to be accountable. All right. Now, in Kora, there's a word. It's anu. Anu, right? Anu will be used to refer to a state of purity or cleanliness. Thank you, Nkandla Forest. Thank you, everyone who sent gifts. Thank you. Nkandla Forest, siyabulela. So if you actually look here, anu, it refers to pure, it refers to clean. It refers to illumination or cleanliness, or some would say holiness, right? If you actually think of the word ukuhalalela is to shine. Uhalalela is to shine, okay? That's why in Hebrew they talk about Halel, the shining star, or Venus, Lucifer, morning star. If you ever watch the series, the guy is Lucifer, morning star, okay? But here now, what you have is a click form, which then, because of linguistic processes, goes through what we call lenition, the weakening of consonants. Instead of it remaining anu is changed into anu. In fact, it happens. For example, in Kora, we will say a man is a chaub, which Kasitswana is likau. In Nama, it's aub. That the harsh sound is gone in Nama. So in Nama, like a good messenger of the spirits will be called Ayub, which means amakaya, abahlekazi. So that Anunnaki that people talk about is exactly founded on this premise of Anu or Anu. Anu, the pure, clean, shiny, bright ones, like a star. Okay? That is the first one I wanted to talk on. The second one I wanted to talk on is another one. And this is just a premise. In private, I do actually do a deep dive into these things because it's important. It's very important. The second one I want to talk about is Abab. Abab. Oh, this is the second form of Kabela, by the way. Aba. Aba is to climb or to go up or to mount on top of something or to ascend. Aba. So in Kung they will say Uru Aba. Uru Aba or Aba Uru. Aba Uru, which means climb up. Aba Uru. Xhosa people say qabela phezulu or qabela ezulu. Uru or Uru Qaba. Abab is springtime, okay? Abab is springtime. This now connects to an old concept of Abab or Abib. Abab or Abib. Our springtime here again is August, September, October, in that vicinity. I mean, scientifically, it's September, okay? Around the 21st of September, equinox. But the difference between the hemispheres ensures that the corresponding month is 6 months later in the opposite hemisphere. So the northern hemisphere, their Abab, their Abib, is in March. And this is why I support the point of my brother Kukuche to say, also following these northern hemispherical based systems confuses people because you're trying to understand something, but the timeline is completely off. It's completely off. Okay? So we also need to realize that sometimes, like, you just can't claim things. And I'm literally speaking here in terms of claiming, the place names. Capernaum, Robben Island, being Patmos. It's just ridiculous, man. There are fundamental concepts of religious beliefs or religious systems, whether it's Hebrew, Abrahamic religions, or even Eastern religions like Hinduism. At a fundamental level, if you look at their concepts, you'll find them in indigenous beliefs. You'll find them. The Anu, the Abib, the Baal, all these things, you'll find them here. But you need to understand what you're talking about. You can't just claim things. You need to go deep. Okay? I think that's what I wanted to show. I wanted to show that then next we're going to talk about now the celestial elements. My brother Mufugeng, I don't know if you want to take some questions or what before we go into the celestial bodies, which is the last chapter of this live. Now we're going to look at the celestial bodies in terms of, we're going to try to be very holistic about it. We're going to talk about stars and the moon and their significance. Yeah.
If people wanna ask any questions related to that, but yeah, me, I was just clear. Teach us up, that it's a combination. When you are seeing this astrological phenomenons and how they've been religiousized, you understand. For me, it's a tool. It's an esoteric tool that was used. It's knowledge, yes, but it was used as a tool to subjugate people. You understand? Because I mean, we can go deep into how long it took. And when we are talking about the 1700s and the belief systems of the natives and the dates of when the translations were done, For me, that is very significant because it shows you that at a certain point there was resistance where our people didn't believe in these ideologies, and came a time where the missionaries finally managed to convince the new generation. And I believed, Mina, it was done systematically, because if you study what was happening in countries like Congo during the Belgian periods, they would literally isolate the parents from the children, and they would teach the children this Bible. And those children, when they grew up, they didn't believe in their ancestral knowledge systems. And that's the same thing that happened here in Southern Africa. We can go deep into the establishments of these traditional churches. Most most of these people study them, and you will see that some of them, they were not people who actually believed in their traditional customs. Instead, they wanted to assimilate power. It's all about that. They can say whatever they want and say, ubani bani waboniswa ini bekasentabeni, bollocks. Wena nje awufuni ukusiza abantu the traditional way. You just want to masquerade this as if you were given a message by an angel of God. Lies. And that's it. And it connects to these star systems. Yes, some of them, they do understand these phenomena we are talking about, and they are knowledgeable of these systems. They can tell you about the stars, but they manipulate the information and make it religious, which is not. And that's it. I don't want to sugarcoat it or lolo, and even this Anunnaki thing people like to throw around, Sumerians and whatnot. These are young stories. When we take them to our traditional native stories, they don't take them into account. As you were sharing the story of Ticlop, it's older than the story of Jesus Christ. It's way older. When you're speaking about our people coming from underground caverns, if we have to go into those stories of ancient cities and them being underground, some of the people won't even understand, because when they read about them from these Sumerian accounts, and they are speaking about Agatha, and they are speaking about I know who's this, I forget his name, but he's kind of like, he went underground and there was underground cities and then he came up again. You understand? But when it's told by Middle Easterners, it makes sense. But when we're speaking about Matsieng and Tintibani being underground, no, there's no such. You see what I'm saying? It's the brainwash that this has actually created, this problem that it has created, that our people are going all over the world. They are even going to India, Baba Buddhist. They are going to China, but they don't look here, right here at home. Like to a point that people want to assimilate with being Egyptians. People want to assimilate to being Egyptian. No one wants to accept their native folklores and stories that when you are coming from the Kauni people, or you are Kekwi, or you are Kam, you don't want to accept that. You want to be Ramses. You want to be Tutmosis. You want to be Osiris. It's sad, but anyway, this is the spell that we need to break and show people ukuthi we do have our own indigenous knowledge systems, and they are far much more richer than the stories of Osiris. I'm sorry. I've been studying that, and I see ukuthi, like the story of Kamata that you relayed, it's far much more profound than me learning about ISIS. Thank you.
Kamagu Muren. No, Kamagu. Thank you, my brother, for that. I was shocked. I saw that there's even a monk now, a Hindu monk. Is Hindu or what, that guy? Or Buddhist monk? In fact, I met a guy years ago who was a Buddhist. Years ago, maybe like 5 years ago, this gentleman was a Buddhist, and yeah, anything but yourself. Anything but yourself. You are very, very comfortable to accept everything else but us. So yes, brother Urwa, you can come, sir. I think you can come, and I'll give you a chance to talk quickly. I'll invite you. I'll give you a chance to talk. I'm open now to people coming through. Yes, sir. You can speak, sir.
All right. Not accepted. Come on. 29 seconds.
You let me know if maybe you're not ready. Then it's fine. We can continue.
Oh, come on. Okay, Javon. It's not accepting. Oh, come on.
All right. I think the brother is not yet ready.
It's not.
Okay,
Sorry about that. Sorry
all
about
right,
that,
all
man.
right.
As I said, the settings are accepting me to going through. Tabedu Huan Kausan the greetings, my fellow brethren. I like this what you guys are holding. I want to honor this, and I always say, guys, our elderly people, they share these lives. Yeah, understand. And when they share these lives, you see them on groups on WhatsApp. They would share these lives and say, "Ish, these kids are talking stuff that are very deep." And imagine these kids, we are far away from them with knowledge, but they're talking as if they are our elders. This is what they say on groups. And I also say I concur with that as well. Qaqa Sisep and also Qaquche Sep as well. Religion. I want to add on what you're saying. There's a difference between to believe, right, and religion, because in Sida Qanqasi, Ngqitiku, or in our customs, indigenously or traditionally, we don't constitutionalize something that we believe, because belief is something spiritual. Qaqa may believe the sun, it does not literally come rise or tray from the east, but it's in between the east and the north. He would say that, and I would also say it is between the east and the south. You understand? The system, the mode of system is the sun rises, regardless where you are. It rises, and the dispute amongst what you believe in terms of religion, I concur with you, my brother. There are times where you grow up, you become very religious, and then when you deal with your ancestral stuff, especially this especially spiritually, it becomes difficult to task, because you have dreams that you don't understand. You have things that you don't literally know where to start. But because myself, in my upbringing, in my self-conscious, I told myself I am going to allow myself to associate with my own kind. And since 2015, I usually said I am going to associate myself with my own kind. I traveled. There was one time I traveled to Kimberley, to Bloemfontein. By the way, the Kwen people, their land that they are staying currently, it used to be Kora land. Your Karima place, the Kora Karima place, they used to dwell in them there after they brought them from Angola and so forth. Now, I usually say to people, the significance of religion it's constituted. It missionaries, all the things we've mentioned concerning the your Koba since or your school, your missionary schools, let me say. That's why children, they ended up conflicting with the idea, because some of the children were abducted, some were taken forcibly, because the mission was to take children by force. That is why even myself, I was at the point, you know what, we need to perform cleansing, to say the country was infiltrated by no by some cult, a mission, because myself, I believe that the Christianity that enslaved people, it's a cult, and it was brought by people who didn't believe. Do you understand? Because one of the reasons was, how can a person be of a believer but they perform rituals, they rape, they sodomize? Do you understand? They cause men to do all these filthy things because of their stupid beliefs. Do you understand? And that is why I say, when a Boer says they were chosen people, I disagree frankly with their narrative, because if religion is about stability and peace, then they should have accepted the fact that, we conquered people, but we need to find ourselves a stable place, but we need to give them their own freedom, so that these people, they should not charge at us. Do you understand? The order of life. I may conquer you, make an example. I may conquer you, but at the end of the day, somebody is going to conquer me to liberate you. And the most finest part is, you need to understand about life. Today we talk about all these religion. You are Muslims, you are Hindu, you are Hebrew, you are Jewish, you are all these, you are Shinto, and all of this. Part of these aspects of these religious sentiments you find from India and in Japan, or wherever in the world, they're all centered around the way of life. And the problem is, they constituted that. And in our circumstances, our ancestors, they didn't constitute, because you cannot constitute a spiritual form. You cannot. How do you constitute children who are born triplets, who are born quadruples? Do you understand? Who are born, children who are born more? How do you constitute? You can't constitute that. There's something that happens naturally. Do you understand? It tells whether the female, how fertile the female is. But we always say, because there's some beliefs in the past, children, if they were twins, it was bad luck. This is belief systems that people carried and they measured on in the past. And then children, then were the other one had to be buried alive. To come to think of it, my father also gave birth to me. He is also a twin. So you think about it, if that other twin was also buried alive, what could have happened? Because the sentiments of beliefs, they have been constituted, and people used to believe that up until they saw, but we're being stupid. That's what religion makes people. Your life is not determined by religious values, it determines by a spirit. That's why myself, I chose spirituality than religion. Why? Because spirituality shows you things beyond religion. It shows you the truth. Make an example, I communicate with my great grandfather, the father of my father's father, through a dream in Korakoba, by the way. Do you understand? I communicate with him in Korakoba. By the way, that man could speak every language. He could speak isiXhosa, could speak Kora. He was very fluent. In a dream, I could see this person that I spoke, he spoke Kora. How do I know that he spoke Kora? That man passed on in the 50s. I was not even near being born at that time. Do you understand? But you consider the situation that evolved through his life. There were things that he had because he was somebody who was born in the 1800s. Now, when you sit there, given stories that were narrated by, there came a missionary there who was from East Kapai. I don't know if how would you describe East Kapai in the modern English way? Because it's a church that exists in the Eastern Cape, right? Even in
Yeah,
Free
it's
State,
called
it's there.
Bantu Church of Christ and the
Yes.
Ibandla Christ. Yeah.
Now, Sklapai came there. My grandfather was having, it was winter, and then he was having, my great grandfather was having, um, because it's cold, so he had to make fire around his territorial place, right? And then when he was making a territory, having fire, and then having tea, and then the missionary came there. He told him, he came there, and then he said that he wanted to convince him to follow the church. I mean, the denomination or the religion, right? And then he made him tea, welcomed him, and then they were having a conversation. And then the problem was, Klapai, when he came there, he told him that after being given tea and stuff, he said to him, you're not supposed to make fire during the Sabbath day. Then we heard, this is a narrative we heard by our grandparents, that no, my great grandfather chucked him out. He told him, you drank my tea, I gave you generosity, I gave you my tea, I gave you everything. Now, where does fire come in the Sabbath? Because fire, it is something very universal. I'm cold. Should I say to respect the Sabbath because of me getting cold? Should not get warm by any means, because what fire is universal, right? Then he chucked it out. He even banned his children from following that. And then apparently some of it, his children, they followed that religion. Do you understand? I'm just saying the wrong sentiments he brought. Do you understand? How do you come to a person's place and tell him you're not supposed to do this? No. You cannot exercise authority in somebody else's yard and tell a person, no, in Sabbath you don't make a fire. Who said, which law does it constitute? Because it's somebody constitutes something because it is said. But if you read in context, there's no such thing. Because that law, it came through a pig invader. Do you understand? That is why we say fire is universal. When it's cold, you have to light a fire. Anywhere else, whether it's a field, if you're feeling cold, even if at what circumstances, fire is universal. That is why even when you go through healing, especially when there's a trip taking place, and then during the Kham era, where there's full moon, right? Healing, there must be fire around healing. Are you going to say, no, it's not supposed to be done in Islam because in Islam, we don't believe people have to be naked around fire? No. The laws of nature does not constitute around clothes. Before there were clothes, there were people who were naked. I mean, you were born naked, right? And by then being born naked, it means you have to be clothed. But the clothed part, it comes to a point that it's a standard of how do you dignify your body. Clothes sometimes it depends how do they change a person's dignity. But in terms of healing is a different process. That is why some of us, we went to a Doro Khasib. When you go to a Doro Khasib, most of the time you are different from a person that you are in the state of being in a caritas or in a village. Do you understand? Now the problem is we cannot constitute things that are spiritual and that are physical, because those things, they are forever. They cannot be detailed in constituting them. I cannot say in my house, thou shalt not light fire from in the morning, only up until the evening you can light fire. No, fire must be light if there is a state of being needing of fire. That's one thing I need to say. And I agree with you on the part how indigeneity culture was stripped off. It's not only in Ngaka Tkheba, right? Not only in Ngaka Tkheba, which is Ngarimaba, right? It is around the world. I was watching documentaries about indigenous people in Russia, indigenous Americans, how they were stripped off. It's through missionaries. Indigenous Americans, they have a belief, especially men must grow hair, right? But when they went to missionary schools, they cut off their hair, they shaved off their hair. Do you understand? Those are one of the things you need to consider. You are taking a person's spirituality. Ka Sesotho rutuwe hore moriri o na le batho e leng hore ba fiwe mpho meriring ya bona. Do you understand? There's people who have gifts in their hair. they should not cut their hair. Do you understand? We have people like that. That is why even some cultural sentiments don't cut hair in the evening. This is during occasion where manifestation of spirits are there. Do you understand? Cut it in the afternoon or cut it in the dawn. Do you understand? Between the times of dawn. That's why I say most of our people, they believe in irrational substance and they legitimize them and then they say it's religion. There's no religion that needs to constitute you of who you are. We are children of Qinghasi, we are children. I don't like when somebody says I am a descendant. No, you are a child. That means you are a surviving seed. You are a ngomana, meaning you are a surviving seed. Because the reason being you are a surviving seed, it means you have replaced people who maintain that you should be alive, and then who maintain that you should know the truth by thyself. Do you understand? So that's why I say to you, powerful words, and don't seek apology or an approval to society in what you believe. There's a difference between being religious and being spiritual, my brother. And people, they choose to be religious because they feel like they want a belonging. That's why when you are religious, something does not make you to grow. Do you understand? You're always centered in one place. But when you're spiritual, you are beyond. Certain things you see, you are beyond. Make an example. When we are amongst Korana, Kuhasip, when we have Koko here, right? When we meet, we go together in a meeting, I leave my belief systems at the gate. I leave them. I talk about spirituality and the things that our ancestors do. Because the thing is, we cannot talk culture and then we put religion. Religions are things that our ancestors, they don't know of. And for us, in order to connect and to revive, it's through connectivity. And to speak about connectivity, about how these people lived. Moriana, ha o o na le sefate so se jetseng. Sefate seo, it does not mean sefate seo ke sefate sa boloyo, ke sefate sa bophelo. That is why if o na le sona ka ntlong, se phedisa wena. If you have flu, whatever, it means that we are diluted by sentiments. People, they say, ba phulusitswe. O phulusitswe from where? I mean, if you are revived from where? Because whatever you do on earth, it still comes back. The energy still comes back. Whatever that you are defying, it still comes back. Do you understand? If you are revived from saying, I don't want to do this and this and this, it's fine. You're not going to do that. But it still comes back, because at the end of the day, somebody says to me, I don't like doing culture. Culture is demonic, whatever. But the person still eats meat. I ask a person, do you eat meat? Yes. Don't you think that meat that was made, it was done on a sacrifice as well? Not knowing whether the sacrifice, what was made, but it was a sacrifice, but you consume, but you're against the process of it. Doesn't make sense. You see? So that is why everything that we do, we humans, we contradict them, but we want to put a special part of validating that this is how it's not supposed to be, this in this form. No. Everything you see, even a rock that you walk over or that you step on when you're walking in the street, that rock has a reason. I've always placed myself, whatever I see on the sky, whatever I see in my physicality point of view, it means it's something very beyond religion. Religion cannot explain that. My tiny hairs, the hairs that I have, you understand? Do you understand? So yeah, let me not waste time, my good people. I just wanted to mention religion. Don't seek validation, my good people, for religion. Religion, it's something else. Choose spirituality than religion.
Kamagu, Tikai Kasab. No, thank you very much. You're not wasting time. I think we'll continue with this conversation tomorrow, you and I. I will most likely be live again, guys, during the day and again in the evening with the Kuche. In the evening, even during the day, you guys can come with your question. Questions and all that. But I wanted to just add on something very important. You see, in the beginning of this series we're doing, I had mentioned how the old Tram told us that the early people, whom they referred to as the Koingaswaqe, then became the stars and the moon and the moon and the sun, okay? Which means they identified with the celestial bodies as direct cultural relatives in a way. So what that means is that they did not see celestial bodies as foreign objects, but rather as home. You see the exact same thing, by the way, amongst the old Botswana, who consider literally that the stars are actually the spirits of the ancestors. That is to say, it is the essence of the first people. So you see now, this is not worship, but rather shared identity. And for me, these kind of fundamental beliefs of the people help me understand how the people could have survived so long. Because the people saw themselves in the trees and in the bodies of water and in the mountains and in the rivers and in the stars. They saw a reflection of themselves. They saw their past in those things. So they could not be destructive. They could not destroy what was a part of them. For example, I was also reading that the old Ram had taught that girls who had reached puberty but were unmarried, these virgins who were fertile, would had to respect rain, the kwa. They had to respect rain, the kwa. Now remember, now we had different types of diviners and shamans. We had the people of the rainmakers, the kwa kakri or kwa kakriha. And then you also had the wind makers or the shamans of the wind, the kwe kakriha or kweten kakriha. So those ones now are people who actually were practitioners on rainmaking, manipulation of the wind. It's almost like air bending and water bending and whatever. But girls of fertile age were particularly associated with the rain, but in a sense that they had to avoid it. They had to respect rain. Now, if you think about girls, you need to think about fertility. You need to think about fertility, and if you think about rain, you also need to think about fertility. So it was kind of like in the old traditions, the two shared a common belief, or the two, the fertility of girlhood and the fertility of the rain was sort of like complementary. So what you have now is something that manifests in the Tembu culture when the fields are not producing. In the days of Unamba weZulu, when the elders would call out the girls, the virgins, to say, come and sing for the fields. Because you are girls, you're the only ones who can call the rain and the rain will come. You understand? So these beliefs are not lost. They are preserved, but if you ignore them, then they are lost. It only exists as far as you remember it. That's like the power of belief. Belief works because you believe. History is relevant because you make it relevant. So this is not something that's just going to fall from the sky and we become proud of it. Ultimately, you become proud of it because you make yourself proud of it. It's not the devil that makes you not proud of it. Oh, the devil is more like, the people you work for in the company and the guys who control the economy. That's the real devil. But that's for another day. These beliefs are there, the ancient beliefs. Remember, we started with the origin of the people. They say the exact same thing. I don't care about nonsense of North Africa and Asia. Those nonsenses, I don't care about them. I'm listening to what the ancients are saying, that these people come from the same source. Others say now, those who have passed become stars. Remember, Undabezita was just saying now, when they were younger, they were told that when someone passes, they become a star, or a star shows up, a star is added in something like that. These beliefs, my people, are fundamental to how people treated the world they were living in. They are fundamental to how people treated the world they were living in. Today, I was just seeing something about a guy who works as a ranger. And then the comment was like, don't hire these black people as rangers. And I was amazed because the real rangers is the children of the nation of this land. Those are the actual rangers in any national park or conservation park. And the white guy responded to that comment and said, no, I was actually trained by the people you say I must not hire. I was trained by 4 Zulu guys, something like that, to become a ranger. So people have become so detached from who they are, because you cannot be yourself in isolation. You are yourself because of the mountains that surround you. You are yourself because of the river from which you drink. You are yourself because of the trees that give you the shade. You are yourself because of the valleys that you traverse and walk on. You are yourself because of the fire you make that keeps you warm. Unfortunately, you can't detach from those things. And this is my hope and dream, that perhaps the people of this land, the children of this land, can get back to that understanding, that this is not just about reading and talking about Kwinkia and Kora online. It's about your very life must go back to the connection, that connection that was severed, that was removed. You need to revive that. You cannot be afraid of going to Harpy Sport. You must go to Harpy Sport because you connect to that place. The place remembers you. You must visit Table Mountain. You must go to the ruins of Mapungubwe. You must go to Bukoni ruins. You must travel the country. You must go to the Kalahari. You must go to Botswana. You must go to the desert in Botswana. You must go to Zim. You must go to these ancient sites because these are the energy points of the land. You cannot ignore that. These are the points of power in the land. Why do you think all the ancient graves, all the ancient sites, all the ancient trade routes are always inside a farm? You think that's by mistake? That all the ancient kings, their graves are inside somebody's farm for the most part. For the most part, they're inside a farm that is owned by some invader. It's not a mistake. They control what matters. Oh, our great king, Uzuluka Malandela. Check the grave inside a privately owned white man's farm. How? Imagine your father's grave, you don't even have access to it. That doesn't make sense. I think that is something to think about, something to ponder on. We could continue, but I think I'm tired. I think Kuche is tired. We'll continue tomorrow. It's still a day. I would like for you now to go to my YouTube channel. I'll share my screen quickly. And then we'll stop. I'm tired now, guys. It's Friday. You've been working the whole week. You see, guys, there's about I don't know, let's see. Yeah, there's this one, ingxoxo enkulu 1, ingxoxo enkulu 2, ingxoxo enkulu 3, Ingxoxo enkulu 4, and then you go ingxoxo enkulu 5, and then 6, Beneath the Southern Skies, and then 7. This one is premiering in 9 minutes. This one is premiering in 9 minutes. It's number 8. And then the one we are doing now, the live we're doing now, is number 9. And then tomorrow is going to be number 10. It's 10 videos on the topic of the so-called Bantu migration, particularly. On average, these videos are 3 hours each to 3 hours, 30 minutes, 3 hours, 40 minutes. So we can then deduce that it's about 30 hours. It's about 30 hours just dedicated to this subject, 30 to 35 to 40 hours dedicated to this subject. I think that is good for something. I think if you can watch all these videos, 30 hours worth of videos to 40 hours worth of videos, I think that's gonna shift something in you. So yeah, please go to my channel, subscribe. The channel is Sandile Tugani. What is the name of the channel now? Yeah, it's here. This is the channel Sandile Tugani. This is one of my latest videos. They lied. Beneath the Southern Sky. Tell your story. I posted this yesterday, and then today, this one in 7 minutes is premiering. So please watch. And then the one I just did now will probably premiere on Sunday. The idea is that you guys, you don't even need to pay for anything sometimes. You just need to watch and take notes. Go and fact check the stuff that I say. Go and fact check them and come and scrutinize me. Come and scrutinize me. I'm closing the session. Ndingujambase ke xa ndisitsho. Ndingucanzi. Ndingusanzanza esanzonza kweqi umntu. NdingumSuthu, umalukazi. Umfene mazabiwe, zabelwa abafokazi. NdinguNtsilane, ubhulashi. Ndingumwandla, uluncu. Mando alifika elihlangeni. Usandlalanca uhamba ngezandla. Kuthiwa phala kuhle emfondini le ndlela iyehlela. Umabula wehleka ngathi ngumthakathi, into ezinhle ezihleka kude kuvele nelokugqibela. Ziyakhala intombi zithi mfondini ndizeke. Kuyalibuwa mranaka tikayiqab ququrhe. Kilibuwa ufela. Thank you, my brother, and thank you everyone who joined. Yeah, don't feed into these people who make content about us, guys, online. Don't feed into those things, okay? These people, they know that if they make content about us, they'll have a lot of engagement. So sometimes just save your energy. Scroll past. Rather, watch Dancing Children or something. Amagu, the live is finished now, guys. Thank you.